Kaustubha Das here with a big announcement for Wisdom of the Sages listeners. This August will be Ashram Month at the Super Soul Farm. Simple ashram living, rising early, morning kirtan, yoga and pranayama, healthy vegan and vegetarian meals, farm seva and being immersed in nature, and then gathering in the evenings for kirtan and readings. Plus, each week we'll have a lead presenter teaching a different facet of the philosophy and lifestyle of Bhakti-yoga. Week number 1 will be the exceptional Bhakti Lata teaching a course called The Beauty of Bhakti, bringing the culture of love and devotion into our lives. Week number 2 is my brother from another mother, Raghunath, teaching Falling in Love with Divinity, the Bhakti-yogi's method for opening the heart. And week number 3 is myself with a course called Following the Path, examining the history and teachings of Bhakti-yoga. You can come for 1, 2, or all 3 weeks, and the pricing is by donation. For more dates and information, go to wisdomofthesages.com/events. Peace.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Sleeping Sunday. For most of us, we're sleeping in for the California Pacific time zone. You guys are up at 5 a.m. Welcome. Good morning. We had a very sweet program here last night at the farm, Kaustubha. How are you?
I'm doing good. How was your program? Tell me about it.
Very good. You know, our Bobby Marchand led the yin training, and we had a nice kirtan last night. And me and John Burke, we slept under the stars last night. It was wonderful. Good. I woke up early in the morning at 4:45 and realized I got a text message from my son. My son is going on the Krishna bus tour.
No kidding.
Krishna bus tour, and he flies out today. And he's with my ex-wife in Michigan. And he sent me this text. He goes, I have no passport. Do I need an identification to travel? And I was like, oh my God, I forgot to send him his passport. That was the beginning of my morning. It went from, oh, the stars, it's beautiful. I hear the frogs chirping. And all of a sudden, that's where I was this morning at 4:45 a.m. And he got on the plane. There's a crazy window of age. It's like 15 through 17 where you can travel without identification. Isn't that unbelievable? He got on the plane. I said to my ex-wife, I was like, do you have ID? She's like, no. I was like, you don't have any ID? No. License. You're driving to the airport and you have no ID? No. I was like, all right. Anyway, it was one of those mornings, but it worked out smoothly.
Good.
And before we announce our very, very incredible guests, we have a few very, very important announcements. And one is the most wonderful, the sweetest, the most incredible singer that touches our heart, Johnny Harrison, is coming to Super Soul Farm next week for our Wisdom of the Sages retreat. So space is very limited. You can stay for the whole weekend, or we have a one-day ticket. But if you want to join us, you should immediately go to wisdomofthesages.com, click on the Sage Academy, and Wisdom of the Sages. You scroll down, Wisdom of the Sages 4th of July weekend will come up. Come with us. Get out of the city. Let's have a 4th of July where we're not just sitting around a fire, drinking beer and shooting guns. Let's get together. We'll have kirtan. We'll read Bhagavatam. Hey, we'll even play volleyball, and then Johnny. Well, it'll be wonderful. And we're going to make. Mara's got these vegan meatball subs she's making. It's going to be a great little event. So come for part of it or all of it.
So in other words, if you come on Sunday, that's the July 4th celebration with the kirtan. And
that's the kirtan. That's the one day, July, because Monday's off. It's the 4th. So July 3rd is Sunday.
And then if you come for the whole weekend, we have more classes and trainings and kirtans and all of that.
Classes, trainings, Bhagavatam, and horseshoes. We have it all here. Okay. We cover your spiritual and material 4th of July needs. So that's really wonderful. Any other announcements, Kaustubha ji?
I got one that today is this, once a month there's this Urban Devi Day for the ladies, right? If ladies want to check in on this, the Bhakti Center, the whole thing is kind of the project of Rukmini Devi. And it's, Urban Devi is a gathering for ladies. They do one online every once a month on a Sunday. So that's today at 11:30 until 1 p.m. today, 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. You go to the Bhakti Center's website and click on online events, and you'll find that Urban Devi. Today's special speaker is Chit Shakti Devi Dasi. And she's speaking, this is the description of what they're going to discuss today. It says, spirituality offers an attractive solution to life's problems. However, the very same problems that lead us to divinity are often where our ability to connect more deeply can be discovered. Unfortunately, many of us try to bypass our humanity rather than transform and transcend it, which means that we may then lose out on an opportunity to go deeper through our challenges. Join us to find out more about how being human and experiencing psychological distress can be a catalyst for spiritual growth. So that's today at 11:30. Go to the Bhakti Center's website and look for Urban Devi. It's free of charge, and it's a really I've never attended one.
You're not allowed.
What I hear from the ladies, it's a great program.
Well, you can start identifying as a woman and go.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, everybody. So I've been talking about this next guest for a long time, especially this week. Jeffrey Armstrong or Kapindra Rishi. I didn't add Vedic astrologer to your list of your long list. Vedic astrologer, an author, a poet, a songwriter, a martial artist, one of the early proofreaders of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam that we study every day, a Sanskritist, a scholar, a philologist, a comedian, a brahmachari trainer, a temple chef, and he created a Krishna-conscious rock opera that toured America in the 70s. Please welcome Jeffrey Armstrong, Kapindra Rishi. Hare Krishna, welcome to the show, Prabhu.
Hey, Radhe Shyam, my friend. Good to see you all.
What an interesting and I didn't even get into your journey. You worked with Apple computers in 1980 for 10 years. I won't even get into that because I really want to tackle a lot of this other stuff. Jeffrey's one of these people that you get him on the phone just for a 1-minute conversation. And you're one of the few people that can make me just shut up and listen. Your story is so wonderful. I really want to know about, you took 6 buses in the 70s and made a rock opera. You want to mention something about that? Because I was in a punk band. And that's what I did as a brahmachari. And it was very out of the box. So when I meet these devotees that did stuff out of the box at a time, in a very conservative time in Krishna conscious history, you were very out of the box. Can you share something about that experience, Prabhu?
What box?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, actually, at one point, Kirtananda Maharaj and I, who were good friends, I lived in New Vrindavan as well and milked 13 cows for 6 months, twice a day. So I was getting trained as a cowherd boy. And he and I were driving around the country together, he teaching as a sannyasin, and I his brahmachari assistant. And I had this idea, why don't we do a rock opera? Why don't we actually appeal, because the Beatles music was all out at that time, in My Sweet Lord and all. So he took the idea to Prabhupada and said, we were thinking maybe we would do a rock and roll band of Krishna conscious music. And he said, well, I guess if they want to have a rock and roll stars as gurus, they might as well have Krishna conscious rock and roll stars as gurus. And the wheels were put in motion. And Michael Cassidy, the leader of the band, and I went to Atlanta, Georgia, bought 7 school buses, put together a 7-piece rock band. I wrote a screenplay, choreographed it. We got it ready. It was called You Know You're Not That Body, do. And we wrote a rock opera and put the whole thing together and hit the road. With school bus for brahmacharis, brahmacharini, we installed Radha Damodar deities and did 6 artis a day. No hanky-panky, no drugs. It was just like a temple. It wasn't anything different, except we were a rock opera on the East Coast of the United States.
Probably the only rock opera that were celibate in the history of rock operas.
We would celibate, but yeah, we were celibate, that's for sure.
That's amazing.
We got $8,000 to $10,000 per performance at rock operas up and down the East Coast.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. And that later turned into the Radha Damodar bus party. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Vishnu John eventually joined us, and then it switched over from the rock opera to the Sankirtan and teaching bus around the world.
Wow. And now you've just put out this new translation of the Bhagavad Gita. Gita Comes Alive. You can see it on gitacomes.alive.com or jeffreyarmstrong.com. You can check out his website there. I will say I am in love with a lot of your classes on YouTube that I've been listening to regularly. And I love how you are just breaking down these Sanskrit words and giving them actually new meaning, if not better meaning. One of your classes, which I really like, which I've been listened to about 4 times already, just so I can ingest a lot of it, was Sanskrit is the root of European languages and Latin. Can you explain that a little, how we are using, or like the Christians borrowed these words and gave them almost half meanings? These words like soul, these words like atma or atomic, or these words like no, it's slipping my mind. Maybe you can just speak and I'll just shut up. How about that?
Oh no, keep speaking. We'll just hit the ball back and forth. How about that? Well, what if I told you that the Vatican is actually the Vatican, and that the Pope, or from Papa, which is from Pitri in Sanskrit, and that Catholic, I think it's Krishna Catholic, is that what they are? And is it possible, just possible, that Krishna Mas, Christmas, is the month, Krishna says of months, I am December, November, December. Could that be Christmas? And I wonder if Christos could come from Krishna. And
wait a second, Prabhu. You're also a poet. I've heard you read poetry off the top of your head. That is like 60s rap poetry. Is this actual philology or study of the origins, or are you being poetic right now?
No, these are the actual origins. And you missed the best part, because there's this place where plants grow. And the Pope, of course, sits on the cathedra in the cathedral. And then and he's speaking from his, Vyasasan. And so there they have a special room where the basilica is, and Basil is Tulsi. But there's no relationship at all between the two.
That was beautiful. Beautiful. And this word soul. Now, you don't like to use that word, I've heard, as a word translated. Why is that?
Let me say, it isn't that I don't like certain words. It's just that after a while, I saw that the people who knew Sanskrit didn't know English, and the people who knew English didn't know Sanskrit. Prabhupada didn't know English. He just knew rudimentary English so that he could come over and do what he did. He knew enough to land Krishna, but he wasn't really articulate in English in the way an English speaker would be. But how many English speakers who are articulate in English know Sanskrit perfectly? But he did, enough for the purposes of being a guru. So we're in a time, it eventually occurred to me that we're the bridge between these two worlds. And so at first we used English. So here's the secret. The question is, ask if a Sanskrit word has an exact equivalent in English. So take the Hare Krishna mantra. What if we say God, God, Mrs. God, Mrs. God, 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 Mrs. God, Mrs. God, 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 Mrs. God, Mrs. God, 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 God. Does the mantra work as well for you?
Not for me.
No, I don't like that mantra. I don't like chanting that mantra. I've tried that a few times.
Yeah, I'm with you. So this means that it's better to say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. But the same is true for other words. If you want to say, if you say I'm spiritual, I say, because the word spiritus means to breathe. I say, I'm so glad you're breathing, but I have no clue what you're really thinking. The word spiritual has absolutely no meaning. It's a lame duck word. It doesn't mean anything. It means what you think it means, but nobody knows what you are thinking when you say it. It has no dictionary meaning other than to breathe. So we're used to using these words as if you know what I mean, but you don't. So this is called etymology. There are two kinds of dictionaries: etymological, which give you the actual root, history, and meaning of the word. And then there's usage dictionaries, and English is mostly object words and has almost no meaning words. So here's the secret. There's no synonymity, it's called. There is not a synonym in English for the word Brahman. There is no equivalent word. So there's no one-to-one translation. But at first, our movement proceeded, and so has everything coming from India, with illiterate usage of English and a minimalist usage or understanding of Sanskrit. And it's time now, as we're now in the next step of the Vedic Renaissance, it's time to use Sanskrit words accurately, to not replace them with colonizing English words, especially those in favor of Christianity, because we're just doing their work for them. We're colonizing ourselves with that terminology. So all those words I'm removing from the conversation, and I've also looked up and found out what they really mean. Okay, so what does the word Lord mean? Tell me, Raghunath.
Lord. Where could Lord come from? Probably it sounds like just like a landholder, perhaps, like a lord of like a governor, perhaps. That's my guess.
Yeah, you're close, actually.
Right.
The Lord, the one who owns the land, is actually from the Old English half-lard, and half-lady, H-A-L-F, lard, L-A-R-D, and half-lady, H-A-L-F. So H-A-L-F, lard, and lady were the one who baked the bread and distributed the bread to the peasants. In Rome, there were revolutions if you didn't give out free bread. So Lord means the one who gives out the bread. That's all it means. The baker of is the lady, and the giver out of is the Lord. And that's why it's called the Lord's Prayer. Give us this day our daily bread. So the whole concept of Lord means nothing more than a bunch of peasants working for a rich son of a gun who doesn't care about anything except himself and owns all the land. So I don't use the word Lord anymore much, except for the person I pay rent to.
Why do the Christians use it then as the supreme Lord?
The real question is, why do the Krishna conscious people use it? Because they don't know better. Because the people who knew Sanskrit, like our dear Guru, did not know English well enough to know these problems, and neither did I at the time. So it took me years of linguistic research and work to sort out the problem that we are using Sanskrit words, but giving them lame translations in English. And that is the problem.
So what's so you would just say Bhagavan for God?
So God is the really great one, because the word God, you see, remember, etymology traces words back to where they came from. So Sanskrit is the mother language. Now, real quickly, here's why. There are 4 sciences in Sanskrit. They're called the Vedangas, Veda Angas. There's 6 Veda Angas: Jyotish, Kalpa for ceremonies, and then the 4 in between are phonetics. There's 4 aspects to language: phonetics, grammar, etymology, and poetry. So those are the 4 departments of Sanskrit. And those 4 departments, they all have Sanskrit names, but I'm moving us along at a good pace. So those 4 sciences are why Sanskrit is the most precise language on our planet. No competition. There is no other spoken language that comes even close. Mathematics is the only thing more precise than Sanskrit.
Could you explain that, like being precise? What do you mean by that?
All right. Well, if we go too far into this, it'll be all we talk about, but it's worthwhile. Okay. So the first is there are 50 letters in the Sanskrit alphabet. How many in English? 26. How many in Hebrew? 22. I wonder if 50 compared to 22 makes a difference. it makes a big difference. You have a lot more letters. Then the letters have meanings. Then we build words, and it's phonetically always pronounced a particular way.
Okay, so pronunciation is spelling and pronunciation.
That's right. You're from Texas. You can't speak your Sanskrit this way and go Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That's not okay, Tex. You got to learn the correct pronunciation, which is called shiksha. So you got to do shiksha, or correct pronunciation of Sanskrit. Next is called Vyakarana. There are 4,000 grammatical.
Can I ask just one question about? So do you think that's because for the purpose of chanting the mantras accurately, the language has to be precise like that?
No, it's for the purpose of the language lasting forever. It's not so we can chant the mantras correctly. It's so that we can chant everything correctly. It's just we're so lazy and spoiled by English that we don't quite yet understand why Sanskrit has lasted all these years. So here's the thing, it's called linguistic drift. Okay. When the meaning and the pronunciation and everything shifts, eventually the meaning gets lost.
I see.
You see? So that's called linguistic drift. In Sanskrit, there is zero linguistic drift. In English, do you get my drift in English? There's nothing but drift in English. English is the sloppiest language in the world. Okay. So now, siksha or pronunciation is first. Next comes vyakarana. There are 4,000 grammatical rules in the Ashtadhyayi of Panini. In the grammar of the Sanskrit language, there are 4,000 grammatical rules you must learn. Okay. If you're truly going to be a pundit of Sanskrit.
And that takes about 12 years to study all that, from what I've
Something like that, depending on what age you begin. But you don't have to, you don't dismay, because you can have a Sanskrit vocabulary without mastering Sanskrit. So that's very important to know, so you don't get discouraged. So that's the two. First is shiksha, pronunciation. Second is grammar, vyakarana. The third is nirukta. Nirukta is etymology, the origin and root meaning of a word. Each word has a root, and that there's 2,212 roots to the Sanskrit language. And that science is called nirukta.
So that's basically like a dictionary full of root words, and you learn them all.
It's more than that. It's the root of all those words, so you know how to make words out of their roots. And that's what Sanskrit does. Sanskrit can invent new words because it is so scientific. It's like in a laboratory, you can invent new things because you have a laboratory full of tools. So Sanskrit has linguistic tools no other language has.
So even if you're not familiar with that new word, you would know what it means because you're familiar with the roots.
Exactly, because you know the Sanskrit. You can just make a new word or disassemble a word or get to the root of a word. And then the last is chandas, or poetry. Because after all, it's Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachite. That's the Gayatri meter. It's Tatsavi Turva Reniyam. Everything having a rhythm to it allows it to be memorized. That's why in Shakespeare, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether or not 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer, that's iambic. It's not iambic pentameter. So the actor can memorize the lines that they're going to have to say because it's in a poetic meter. So all the Bhagavad Gita is in the same meter as the Gayatri mantra, only it's 4 lines. So Bahu Nam Janma Nam Ante, 8 syllables. Yana Vanmam Prapadyate, 8 syllables. Vasudeva Sarvam Iti, 8 syllables. So this is the most precise language on our planet, and there is no competition, and it's the source of Latin, Greek, German, Russian. The word Russia is Rishi.
Is that true?
Yes, it's true.
Russia is from Rishi?
It's Rishia, yes. They used to go north and build ashrams there, and the Russian is based in Sanskrit, so is German. So here's the word that we were headed toward. I gave it a little pretext there, or preface. So the word God came into the English language from the German language, which is from Sanskrit and not Latin. Okay?
God is from Sanskrit. The word God is from Sanskrit.
Well, more to the point, the German language is from Sanskrit. Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, and French are from Latin. But German and Russian and Scandinavian, which is, by the way, transcendental, transcendere. Transcendental means to leap beyond. So Scandinavia is named after Shiva's son, Skanda or Kartikeya. So Scandinavia, because Skanda was the leaper, the one who could leap. All these words are sitting there with Sanskrit roots. So imagine if you have a little bit of a problem with your ticker and you go to the hospital. What do they call the doctor you talk to?
The heart doctor. What do you call the heart doctor? Kaustubha, quick.
I don't know. I forget.
The heart doctor.
It starts with
cardiologist.
Cardiologist.
There you go, cardiologist. So guess what? The root of that is Sanskrit.
Hridaya.
Hridaya, yeah.
Hridaya, which is the name for the heart. But Hridaya in Sanskrit means the place where Hari is sitting.
Kaustubha. Very interesting.
Oh, isn't this fun?
It's very fun.
Yeah. So the heart, the Hridaya, Hari's dais. Hari is sitting there.
Hari's dais. What? My mind is blown. Hari's dais.
Your heart is Hari's Vyasasa. He's sitting there with Sri. Sri Hari is sitting there in our heart. And we call that Param Atma, who is sitting on the Hridaya. So Krishna consciousness is good for your heart.
That is beautiful.
So back to the Sanskrit. So those 4 departments are the 4 of the 6 Veda Angas, the limbs of the Veda. The Veda moves forward in history because of the limbs of the Veda. So it's got legs, it's got arms, it's got ears, it's got eyes. So knowing those 4 linguistic departments is the prerequisite for moving the Vedic knowledge forward in history. Therefore, the bottom line is if you learn as much Sanskrit as you can and don't compromise it with compromised English, and you don't try to make English words be synonyms. So let's go back to God real quick. So God in German came from the Sanskrit Hutam, H-U-T-A-M. The Germans pronounced it Gutam, G-H-U-T-A-M. In Dutch, it became Gut, and in English, it became God. So now you're wondering, what is Hutam? Brahmarpanam, Brahma Agnau, Brahma Hutam. It's the smoke arising from a Vedic Agnihotra Yajna. So here's the good news, ladies and gentlemen. Christianity is just blowing smoke at you. Their favorite name for the supreme being was the smoke that arises from a pagan fire sacrifice. You just gotta love it.
Wait a second. Yesterday you said on the phone, pagan. This is going to blow your mind. What do you hear this one, Kaustubha? Tell Kaustubha where pagan is from.
Well, them damn pagans are out there doing those fire sacrifices and blowing smoke to God. You know what I'm saying? And so they're called the Bagans. I mean, the pagans, because I can't pronounce the damn word anyway. So a bunch of pagans out there, or Bagans, or whatever the hell they call themselves. And they're worshiping the girl and the guy and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
So you're saying it's from Bhagavan. Pagan is from right. Bhagavan.
Pagan is a mispronunciation of Bhagavan.
So they were...
God is a mispronunciation of Hutam. The Christians are saying Hutam.
So it was the Romans who were calling everybody pagans? Who were calling everybody pagans? And did they use that word pagan, or is that just an English word? What did they call it?
They mispronounced Bhagan. Somebody said those are the Bhagans. And they said, oh, you mean the pagans. But they were illiterate, so they didn't get the word right.
And the drift that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's called linguistic drift.
But I don't understand. It's not like there was a bunch of Hindus in Rome, were there?
Well, they were all up and down the Silk Road. India and China have been talking on the Silk Road for 5,000 years, sending things back and forth. I'll tell you a secret. in the year that Jesus supposedly lived, there were 200 ships a year going from Rome to India. It was already a well-established trade route back and forth.
When was this?
During the year there was supposedly Jesus was living in Rome.
Okay.
There were over 200 ships a year going back and forth between India and Rome. And there's no proof that Jesus was alive at that time, but there's an entry in the Roman Senate, and it says we've got to stop spending all of our money on saris from India for our wives. It's in the Roman Senate.
Wow.
So do you think a little knowledge might have made its way into Rome, considering there was a Shiva and Durga temple there with full deities at the time?
Wait a second. There was a Shiva and Durga temple where?
In Rome.
In Rome.
Yeah. Oh, Rome is Ram, isn't it? Is it just a mispronunciation? It's where the basilica is, all the Tulsi.
On the dais. Wait a second. Have you ever heard that, what's it called, Jeffrey? There's one stone that the Muslims worship in Mecca, and they circumambulate this stone. Have you ever heard about that? What's it called?
Yeah. It's actually a Shiva Linga by all accounts. And it was installed there. Muhammad was very upset because prior to him, his ancestors were deity makers, and he got sick and tired of it. So he decided that the deity thing had to go. And that was his big reform movement, aside from cohabitating with 9-year-olds. But hey, never mind. It all got mixed up, let's say. And disentangling it is when you use linguistics. And that's what I've been working on, is disentangling the whole mess of confusion that took place on the Silk Road and was promoted by Roman Catholic interests to confuse everyone. So there you go.
Well, it is confusing, and you're shedding some light on it.
It's time to clear that confusion up a little bit with some Krishna Katha instead of Kathaholic. You know what I mean?
And the word spirit, where does the word spirit coming from?
Oh, it's from Greek, and it means to breathe. And so raise your hand if you're spiritual.
I am. I'm breathing right now.
I'm breathing too. Good. I'm glad to see that.
And where does the word soul come from? It's a Latin word, soul?
Soul, it's S-O-L. S-O-L. It's a little sun.
A little sun.
Yeah, but the sun burns out, doesn't it, if I'm correct? So does the Atma burn out, or does the sun burn out? So which one is correct? Soul or Atma? Oh, wait. Atma gave us the word atomic. It means you can't cut it, you can't break it, you can't burn it, right? Isn't that what Bhagavad Purana says? You can't cut it, burn it, break it, right? Doesn't die. So Atma, and guess what? Not only Atma, but adamant and a diamond all came from the word Atma.
But it's interesting that if soul means little sun, which makes complete sense. Also, of course, the Gita compares the sun to the soul, that it spreads. Yeah,
metaphorically, it makes a little sense, but the sun burns out. So as a metaphor, it's okay, but not as a term, because it burns out. Whereas Atma means you can't break it, you can't burn it out, you can't cut it, you can't destroy it. So that's the point. And you're missing the point when you say soul, and you're getting a little bit of the light, which is better than none. But then again, it's not enough, really. You see, that's the problem. So we're just sloppy, we're speaking, we're sort of illiterate from down there in the south. And we don't want to speak that Sanskrit stuff, too correctly, because then we get converted or something like that,
So when did the idea of the soul, that we, obviously in the East, we understand that we are spirits that have a body.
We're not spirits.
Did the Christians flip that?
We're not spirits. Spirits breathe. Spirits.
Okay, we are jivas that have material elements.
Jiva atmas. So mean we're covered in goo. Is that it?
We're covered in goo. Yes.
Yeah. So could goo, G-O-O, have come from G-U in Sanskrit, or G, you are you, goo.
So where did it flip flop? Like, we have souls. Is that a Christian thing that came later?
Yeah, of course. It came when you were illiterate and didn't know Sanskrit. It's called linguistic drift. So all you need to know is that the conversation is drifting away from its precision. And it's not that it has no meaning, it has partial content. But using those words as synonyms for Sanskrit words ruins the Sanskrit word, because then you don't take the trouble to learn the real meaning of the Sanskrit word. And that's the dilemma.
Wow.
It's laziness. Instead of taking the trouble to actually find out what English words are reliable and which ones can you count on to mean what they say they mean. You see?
The word religion.
You mean religare, bound by rules. If you look it up in an etymological dictionary, the word religion comes from the word ligament. It means, religion means nothing more than ligament. Let me give you a couple more. What does the word hymn mean? Please tell me.
Hymn.
What is a hymn?
Hymn.
Om.
Om. How about Om?
How about H-Y-M-N? Now tell me another word in the English language that reminds you of. Wait, H-Y-M-N. No, I don't want to say this. I don't believe it. It couldn't be true. You don't want to tell me that it's hymen. Oh my gosh. Hymen? How did the word hymen become the word hymen? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's because back in Old English, when a lady got married, her husband that night got to remove her hymen, and she screamed, and that was called her wedding hymn or her wedding song. So do you think we should translate the Rig Veda and call them the Vedic hymns? I mean, vaginas? I mean, well, it is all about him.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for that. Back to cooking.
Oh, wait, it gets better.
Back to cooking.
Wait, there's 2 books in the Bible. Aren't there? Old and New what?
Old New Testament.
Testicle.
What?
What? The word testicle, well, testosterone, Tom. Duh, did you miss that one?
I'm having a word nerd party today.
Yeah.
This is my word nerd day of the year.
I thought it was your rebirth day, so you invited me to your word party, and here we are. So you see, it's in the Old Testament. It says such and such was going to give testimony, and the other guy put his hand on his thigh. That's a euphemism for grabbed him by the shortened curlies, because if you lied while you were testifying, they removed your testicles. And so it's called testimony. And it's full of testosterone, and it's all about him. And it's something to do with the hymen, or I don't know. It's getting very confusing.
Wow. Interesting. Do you have the Father, Son, the Holy Ghost? I'm going to completely switch topics. Is this from a Vedic perspective, Father, Son, the Holy Ghost, or is that something Christians came up with on their own?
Well, that one is not as clear to me.
Okay.
It just got ghosted in, but you know that it's, again, just metaphorical language, that when you don't have the Sanskrit to say Paramatma, the Atma, and Bhagavan, right, then you start making things up like that. So this is a thing to understand. Along the Silk Road, Sanskrit's been spoken for 5,000 years.
Where was the Silk Road? Where was the Silk Road? Fill us in.
Well, it stretched from, just think it went from China all the way across to India and Europe, and eventually ended up in Aryan land, Ireland. Wonder if there's a connection. So all these words were everywhere, where the pagans, the Bhagavans, they were all spread out across the world, and they were in Rishia and Scandinavia and Skanda, and you made the big leap to the transcendental, transcendere.
Wow.
You see what a mess it is? So here's our mission. I'm going to just make it very simple. When you learn Sanskrit words, be careful the English words you use to define them don't compromise them. And do not expect there to be synonyms between Sanskrit words and English words. There are not. None of the meaning words, the word Brahman. So I'll give you one more interesting one. So the word Brahman, Briha is the root. The root of the word Brahman in Sanskrit is Briha. and Ri is the root of that. So, but Ri came from Briha, Brihaspati. You recognize that as one of the great rishis. So Brahman is Briha. This gave us the English word brilliant, also the English word embryo, sitting inside the womb. And womb, by the way, has om in it. I wonder if there's anything in that. And then embryo, and then so Briha gave us the English word brilliant and spring, because P and B get transposed very easily. So all the bright words, brilliant words, and let's just do one more. The word ritam. Do you remember the word ritam in Sanskrit?
Tabakatam, ritam. That's what comes to mind.
Ritam is all of the laws of nature. It's called the ritam.
Okay.
So the ritam then went into English and went into Latin and went into Greek. And so now we call it reading, writing, arithmetic, written. All those re words are from ritam, the Sanskrit, the various codes of nature. And what is nature called in Sanskrit? Prakriti. So it's prakriti because it's built up by cause and effect. So the ritam is the basis of prakriti, and prakriti is that it is produced prakri by laws of cause and effect. Iti done again and again. Prakriti. It's iterations. I wonder if iteration in English came from Sanskrit iti.
What do you think of all this, Kaustubha?
It's all very fascinating.
I know. I'm trying my best to dive into a little bit of Sanskrit right now. I don't even basically know where to begin. Me and Merritt.
This is our challenge. So if I can, this is our challenge.
Sure.
Is to learn enough Sanskrit and not compromise it by incorrectly defining it as having a synonym in English. So Atma and soul are not synonyms. They have a slight resemblance.
So then how do you translate Atma?
Yeah.
Or
You don't. You use it.
Okay.
But you use English words to describe it, because words like indestructible, can't be cut, can't be burnt, can't be broken. Now we're describing its characteristics, but there is no synonym in English. The problem, I call this original syntax error. Is your syntax is off, you sinner, and therefore you keep twisting the Sanskrit in order to get it to land in English. Don't do that. Instead, get 20 stable English words and use them to build a definition of the Sanskrit. There is no one word synonymity between Sanskrit meaning words and English. Got it? And that's the crucial point.
I'm just worried about the practicality of it when you're speaking.
It doesn't matter. The practicality is you won't destroy Sanskrit and its meaning.
But what if I can't communicate to a person?
Then you say, may I teach you a word, please? You say, may I, in order to tell you that I have to teach you a word. Is it okay? Will you learn another word? If they say, duh, no, can't learn word, then you're not going to reach them anyway. If they say, why not? Of course, you're my guru. Then you teach them a word and you do not pretend they already have one in English, because they don't.
You know, Jeffrey, Prabhu, we've also come across the problems with this concept of the word sin, because it makes God out to be judgmental, cruel, sadistic, etc. Would like to comment on the word sin, or it comes from what, papam in Sanskrit?
Yeah, well, Pop, you mean the one that gave us Pope?
Yes.
And Pop means going against the laws of the Ritam. And so if you go against the Ritam, you get Pop. And if you go in favor of it, if you work with it, you get Punya. So Punya and Pop are the two words. Sin is not at all meaningful because it's only been used in the context of Christianity. So it's not a, synonym, because it has only a meaning. Because what is sin? Let me back up and ask you this. According to the Catholic Church, where do we come from?
Where do we come from? Where do we come from? We came from a rib in Adam. Is that it?
You must be poking fun. You're ribbing me, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So there is no Atma in Christianity. There is no permanent being. There's no explanation of that permanent being existing in the past and being anywhere or doing anything whatsoever. There is no story of what they did before they got here. But somehow when they got here, they were behind the 8 ball and they became Adam and Jiva. Wait a minute, is Atma Adam and Jiva Atma? You mean they became Jiva Atmas? They became Adam and Eve. How interesting. Is that twisted Sanskrit again?
Well, what is Adam and Eve in, what's the original?
It's Atma and Jiva. It's Jiva Atma.
What's Adam and Eve in, what's the original origins of the Bible? It's not Greek, it's
Aramaic.
Yeah. Supposedly, but nobody really knows because they don't know where we came from. There's no name for it. There is no name for a pre-existing place from which we have come. And there is no name for who we truly are. Atma, indestructible beings who are here visiting. And there's no name for this place that we're visiting, Prakri Iti, built up temporarily by using laws of cause and effect repeated again and again. Prakri Iti, Prakriti. And the Ri is the Ritam, or the underlying laws of the universe that were made by someone, who, etc. So you can't conduct this conversation until you start using Sanskrit words correctly and only use object words in English and not use meaning words, because the meaning words in English are a hodgepodge, a mess of incorrect understanding.
Abraham.
Brahmic. Abraham and Sarah, you mean Brahma and Saraswati?
It's Abraham and Sarah, right? What was their
Brahma
position?
and Saraswati. That's what Abraham and Sarah comes from, a mispronunciation of the beginning. It was Brahma and Saraswati. So the Abrahamic religions think it's Brahma and Sarah. It's Brahma and Saraswati, dummy. You didn't study Sanskrit, so you twisted it and spoke it in Southern, and you say, that Brahma and Saraswati stuff, That's how it goes. It gets twisted. Once it's twisted, it's done.
And the amazing thing is that if you were to see or witness or have some understanding of Brahma, and you were just an ordinary jiva, you'd think this is God. This was what must be God must be.
No, you wouldn't say God because you're still trapped in another trap.
Right.
You'd say this, it isn't smoke from the fire. So you misspoke, so to speak. And you wouldn't say that at all. You'd look for another word.
What's the biblical name for God? What do they call God? Jehovah?
Oh, Yahweh?
Yahweh.
My way or the highway, Yahweh.
What is Yahweh from? What is it? The origins of Yahweh? Is that just
come back and see us now sometime. This is the thing. You can ask what's its origin, but what's its meaning?
What is its meaning?
That's the point. You see the dilemma? Hutam. Well, I knew you would like to conduct these sessions in a playful mood, so we have speeded up this linguistic lesson and made it a little bit more of a free-for-all than it normally would be. But you see, to get the point across is that until we learn Sanskrit in a calm, articulate way and learn the correct definitions of each of those Sanskrit words and can say those in English so that people don't get lost, they really don't have a reference point and a meaning when you use the words. So they do not advance in consciousness. And the whole point of this is we're trying to advance in consciousness. And the Sanskrit words are intrinsically themselves each a chunk of Brahman. They're a little piece of Brahman that we're using here, and therefore they enlighten us. And they're steady and their meaning doesn't drift. They don't have linguistic drift. So the importance of developing the Sanskrit vocabulary is it steadies our realization, and the definitions of those words were never distorted. We just have to be careful when we make the English definition that we don't distort them at that point. So it requires a little precision to balance the English words and know their etymology so we don't use them to confuse the Sanskrit words. So far, I think I'm the first person to really take this up in earnest and try to clarify this, and that's what the Bhagavad Gita Comes Alive is all about, is we took out all of the Christian colonizing words and we used Sanskrit words in the verses, the ones you said people wouldn't want to learn. And it's true, it requires a glossary. Most Gita glossaries are only word for word, and that doesn't work. But our definitions in the glossary are about a paragraph long, so that you get some depth of understanding of the Sanskrit word. And now it's a part of your, wait, vocabulary? What is that one? You know that word, vocabulary.
Vacha.
Vach. It's vocabulary. Who's Vach? Saraswati. And if you have a very good vocabulary and you're fortunate, your guru will give you what? Diksha?
Diksha.
And does it possible that your vocabulary comes from the dictionary?
By the way, we just want to again mention jeffreyarmstrong.com or gitacomesalive.com, or even on Amazon, you can get this, the Bhagavad Gita, his Bhagavad Gita entitled, what's the title?
Comes Alive. Bhagavad Gita
Comes Alive.
A radical translation.
We are, Jeffrey Prabhu, we are almost out of time. We study the Bhagavatam every day. Would you like to share some glory of the Srimad Bhagavatam, maybe put it in context with Vedic teachings?
Certainly. Well, the Bhagavat Purana was the 18th Purana, and it was given at the same time, or just after Bhagavan was here, in order to fill in the details that hadn't been revealed. So the Bhagavat Purana is the personification of Bhagavan appearing as a text, so that we can go deeper into understanding his Leela and the possibilities of bhakti and our relationship with him. The Bhagavad Gita is the user's manual for the human condition to get us situated in the right relationship to Bhagavan. And the Bhagavat Purana takes us deeper into the Leela and the deeper emotional relationship that is possible between ourselves and the being who is the source of everything. So it is that which bhakti is taking us into a more articulate stage of, and that's why we need to know words like rasa and lila and the various Sanskrit words again, so that we don't use sloppy English words that don't apply to the intimacy we have with Bhagavan. So the necessary vocabulary for the Bhagavat Purana and the Gita are that we clear up this mess so that we can proceed learning Sanskrit words and using correct English ones.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Kaustubha ji.
Yes.
What a day for education. Now, great things for my transcendental trivia. Jeffrey Armstrong, Kapinja Rishi Prabhu, thank you so much for your time. I could just talk to you. Maybe I'm just going to have to come out and visit you up in Vancouver.
Okay, you're invited.
Okay, yeah, that was me inviting myself. You did pick up on that, right? You got.
I'm a little slow, but you know.
Anyway, we loved having you. I've gotten a lot of feedback already on our message board, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more after this. You can check out his YouTube channel, just Jeffrey Armstrong on YouTube. You're going to find some great videos. I found this show today enlightening, fun, and you're just a great person to talk to, and you dedicated your life to this. We're really grateful for you. It strengthens our faith in the origins of the Vedic culture. And I just want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. Sri Ram Narayana Vasudeva Govinda Vaikuntha Mukunda Krishna. Sri Keshavananda Shringa Vishnu Mam Trahi Samsara Bhujanga Dashta. Help me, Bhagavan. I'm trapped in the coils of the serpent of transmigration. Please release me from those coils. Thank you, gentlemen, for all you're doing. Ladies.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Haribo, Haribo. Please join us again too. I want to thank everybody. Haribo. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today, especially live, and especially this whole group we have here live at the farm today. Just a whole little crew here. And I also want to thank everybody joining us on Zoom. If you want to join us on Zoom, you can. You just got to email Mara, Wisdom of the Sages 108 @gmail.com, and she'll send you the secret codes to get onto Zoom. If you have, a lot of people just find out about this podcast through their friends telling them, hey, listen to this podcast. I think you might like it. If you have some friends that are interested in spirituality, share the podcast with them. Or if you're into social media, you can take a screenshot and post it on your stories on Instagram. And that's how this stuff gets around. We give ourselves to other people. We give this stuff away, and we help people. This is like the ultimate help we can do for people. No matter what people want to make themselves happy, what they really want is direction, focus, and connection. And so we focus. The main thing is we keep the main thing the main thing. So if you'd like to do that, give that information of the Bhagavatam away, the wisdom that we can apply to life and make life so sublime. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Now we will sing and dance. This is the part of the show, Jeffrey, where we just clap our hands, look at people on Zoom, and dance around, even though it's early in the morning. That's okay.
Oh, Raghunath, I've only got one thing to say. Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram, Patita Pavana Sita Ram, Sita Ram. Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna. Thanks so much. Thanks, Sandy, also for helping set up this interview. Thanks, everybody, who joined late on Zoom that I didn't say good morning to. I always feel guilty. Anna Ciro from Colombia. Mohan from Finland. Where's Finland? How did they get the name Finland, Jeffrey?
Well, Raghunath, I can just tell you that Bhakti guilt is better than Catholic, so you're doing great.
Bhakti guilt. Okay, good. Let's see.
It's just original syntax there, remember?
I love that one, the original syntax.
So thanks for having us on.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, it's a beautiful day for a beautiful day.